Today's episode is about polls. No, not the ones Bobart will be dancing on by this time next year. Not the ones Lindsey Graham will be sitting on tonight. But these polls right here from the New York Times. Now granted, polls do not hold the same weight that they used to. And not even the brain-dead MAGA's method of how many boat parades they had. You remember when they told us Trump couldn't have lost because of all their boat parades? I remember. I mean, just look at what polling did to Nate Silver's face. This is how he went in when he started polling, and this is what he looks like now. He looks like a prostitute that just left Lawrence Taylor's hotel room. Speaking of which,
I want to say, I grew up a Democrat, and I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here. I'll tell you what.
How weird.
He will not have to worry about nobody in my family ever vote for a Democrat again, okay?
Isn't it strange that sex offenders always move over to the Republican Party? I used to be a Democrat my whole life until I had to register as a sex offender for beating up a 16-year-old prostitute in a hotel room. That Lawrence Taylor. I used to be a Democrat before that happened, but guess what? Here I am now. Can't get a job on ESPN, can't get a job on NBC, can't get a job anywhere. The only thing that's really left for me is being your token. So go ahead and spend me, Donnie. Go ahead and spend me to this crowd. And to put a bow on just how terrible these Trump supporters are, this QAnon lady brought her 8-year-old daughter to a Trump rally. Not only brought her to a Trump rally, but bought her on her birthday. I hope she doesn't catch Lawrence Taylor's eye line. Miss QAnon, Miss Follow the Breadcrumbs. Sure missing a big one right here. Sure missing a big fish to land here, detective. And by the way, if you're out there and you do this to your kid, even if it's not their 8th birthday, you dress them up in your conspiracy shirts, force them to rallies because you're in a cult, that's considered grooming. And I mean, you could turn on Morning Joe. He can make you feel a little bit better about this poll, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't be taken down after I say this next thing. But the New York Times Siena poll traditionally has consistently slanted toward Donald Trump. And what's so funny is the Times will release
I'm not feeling better.
Liberals will run around with their hair on fire for about a month, right? And then like 3 days later,
go ahead and laugh, Mika. I don't consider myself too much of a liberal. I guess some commenters on this channel probably do, but yeah, my hair's a little on fire because of this poll. It's kind of scary. Admittedly, 100%, this poll could be an outlier. We'll find out when they're all folded in. But we are starting to enter the time period when people are paying attention. So we can't keep saying no one's paying attention right now because people are starting to pay attention to what's going on. And I have to tell you, those Nevada numbers, no matter who they were polling, that's kind of scary to me. Those Arizona numbers, after what Republicans try to pull in Arizona, try to use a law from before the Civil War to limit a woman's right to health care, to have them losing after that, 42-49, it's a little bit alarming, all right? Maybe the light's not quite at red, but it definitely should be turning yellow at this point. Oh, there he comes. He's excited. He's excited to tell you his poll numbers. He won't tell you what he's down.
Well, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you being here. The New York Times just came out with a poll that shows us leading everywhere.
Leading everywhere by a lot is the takeaway.
And I think you'll find it very interesting, but I'm sure you will.
And I would just like to pretend that just once, we're not going to flirt with this authoritarian, with this fascist, with this man who will have no adults in the room this time. You remember last time when they're like, hey, at least he has adults in the room, right? He had the Exxon guy in there, I guess. Even when Sessions was in there, they're like, he has adults in the room, reining him back. This time around, there's not going to be any adults. It's not going to take to the 3rd year or whatever it was before he fired anyone with half a brain cell in his cabinet. We are starting Revenge of the Sith with all the morons already in there. Everybody ready to say yes to him. Project 2025, the Supreme Court. There's not going to be any grace period this time. He's going to hit the ground running. And in 4 years, if this happens, if these polls are right, if what's going on happens, this country will be fundamentally different. It will not look at all like it does today. You can take my word for it. It's going to suck that I'm going to be right in 4 years if it happens, and you come back here and watch this video, unless this video is censored by the state or whatever for hurting his feelings. But it's the truth. And I don't want to get too much into my personal life, but one of the worst things is when I have gay, black, Latino friends, and they're so nonchalant about all of this, like it's never going to affect them. In fact, some of them have even muttered the words, "We live in California, it won't happen out here." And the thing about it, it's only my guy friends, right? Only my male friends who utter these words. I haven't heard a woman that's a friend of mine since, I don't know, maybe 2018 at the longest, 2019, that has showed any support for Trump. Because it's happening to them now. They are directly affected by his policies, by his Supreme Court justices. And I am very much talking about women who voted for Trump in 2016. Unapologetic women. Women that were so happy to cast that vote. But now that they have less rights than their grandparents, I don't hear a word. I don't hear a word from them anymore about any of this. And the ones who I do hear from are now campaigning for Biden like their very healthcare, like their very privacy, like their very rights as women depend on it. Because it does depend on it. And then our favorite trad wife, Katie Britt, senator from Alabama. I mean, the other senator from Alabama, you can see in this video behind Trump showing his support for a criminal. The other one, the woman, the trad wife, the Handmaid's Tale, well, she's got a new law she's trying to pass.
Hi, as a mom, I know that there is no greater blessing in this life than our children.
Every time she talks, it's like a failed audition tape to the Handmaid's Tale.
Journeys and while raising their kids. This week, I'm
sorry, here, I gotta turn this down. Every time I see her, it takes me back. It triggers me. I use that word. It does trigger me, though. It takes me back to the lithiumed up Mormon housewives in Utah. Because they were so out of it. They were so phony. This was their exact tone. This was their exact face. She's here to take away your rights with that phony smile. And that fake righteousness that just gets under my skin. We made a video last week or the week before about Republicans wanting to create a registry to track women's menstrual cycles. That's what it buries down to. And now Katie, the trad wife, she's taking it a step further and she wants to make it a law. Today, tomorrow, for the rest of your life, women. Party of small government. Katie Britt will put you into a database where they will keep track of your menstrual cycles. And if you get pregnant, you better hope nothing happens. Whether it's a miscarriage or whether you just want some health care with your doctor. Maybe there's going to be complications. Maybe your life's in danger. Well, you better think twice about it because now you're going to be in a government registry. And this brings me back to my previous point about my male friends. My gay, black, Latino, anyone that's a shade darker than Stephen Miller's ballsack. It brings me back to them. And it really comes back to a case of not being able to see the forest from the trees. Donald Trump has said several times he's going to round up 10 million people within the first couple months of his presidency. And as aforementioned, everybody's going to be replaced when he gets in there. They've promised it. So you're not going to have, lawyers telling him it's not okay. You're not going to have generals saying it's not okay. You're going to have yes men all the way. And taking what we know about them wanting a government registry for, women's menstrual cycles now, how exactly do you think they're going to round you up? Huh? Come on, think about it, Scooter. If Donald Trump is president, you get pulled over by a cop, you don't have your papers, I hope you have an international plan on your phone, an international calling plan. And I wish I was joking, but that's the promise. And you'd know that if you just listen to them. And that for me is the most frustrating part, because people on this channel, me, we do listen to them. And we know what they're planning down the road this time. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a straight white guy. And if the wife has her way, I'm probably going to get snipped like a dog here pretty soon. So it's not me they're coming after. I'm going to be fine, at least until they find this channel and then raid the house or whatever. But in the interim, I will be fine. It's not me whose life will be turned upside down in the next 4 years. It's the women, and it's my nonchalant, gay and black friends, Latino friends, who think that this will never arrive at their doorstep. Like California, just being in California is fine. And on top of that, showing no concern for people in other countries, for showing people concern for women, minorities in Texas, in Florida, in any state in the South. I hate to be so blunt about it, but polls like that are blunt, and they require a blunt response. Americans today, and I'll exclude women from what I'm about to say. This does not apply to women. American men are so far away from any kind of real government suppression, oppression, that they have no idea what it's like. And it's why they'll walk into like a Starbucks with their AR-15, right? It's why they'll cry about how bad Twitter was before Elon, because they have no real concept of what an oppressive government actually looks like. But they want to be oppressed. They have that victim fetish, that oppression fetish. But they have no idea what it really entails. It's why I say lap it up now, the Genocide Joe, while you're out on the campus. Yell it as much as you can right now. Because the guy who did this to protesters outside the White House and then ran and hid in his bunker afterwards, he's telling you exactly what will happen if you try to protest when he's president.
When I'm president, we will not allow our colleges to be taken over by violent radicals. And if you come here from another country and try to bring jihadism or anti-Americanism or anti-Semitism to our campuses, we will immediately deport you. You'll be out of that school.
Genocide Joe, you will be deported. His words, for protesting, for exercising your First Amendment. In any healthy democratic republic, take away that this guy was found by a jury and a judge to be guilty of rape.
I met this man right here.
Take away he attempted a coup last time he was in office. Take away the classified docs he stole and sold. Take away empowering neo-Nazi groups. Proud Boys, stand back, stand by. Take away him spending Thanksgiving with Nick Fuentes. Take away stripping women of their health care, their right to privacy.
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Take away politicizing a pandemic, killing hundreds of thousands of people. Take that all away. Make him an angel up to this point. And still have him say that you will be deported from this country for protesting, for exercising your First Amendment right. And tell me, all those other things disqualified, all those other things forgotten about, would that not on its own disqualify this man from ever being president again? It should be a hypothetical. It should be an obvious hypothetical. But at this point, it's a real question. Because 50% of this country are morons. They go to this political rally. What do you think they're hearing about? Tax rates? You think they're hearing about policies for the Middle East? Saving the environment? Here, I'll show you what they're listening to.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen a Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter.
The late, great.
He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter, congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country.
A shout out to a fictional character who also happens to be a serial killer. Each day we're finding out that if Donald Trump doesn't have that teleprompter in his face telling him exactly what to say, either he's ranting about some fictional serial killer being a real guy, late great, what a wonderful guy, or he's falling asleep and farting in court. So after first seeing that clip, there's really only two scenarios I can come up with. The first one is he went off teleprompter, and in his diseased, broken mind, either got confused or I don't know what, but he thinks Hannibal Lecter, the late great Hannibal Lecter, is a real guy. And you can tell he's talking about that Hannibal Lecter because I had a friend over for lunch, right? And in this scenario where he thinks this fictional character is real, he's happy to have him as a supporter. Not only a sex offender at this rally, but the late great serial killer who ate people. And what great company. He's probably someone who helped man the airports during the Revolutionary War, right? The second scenario, which I think is less likely, but who knows at this point, is that was actually included in the speech. They wrote that in the teleprompter because these people are so stupid that he's talking to. What does it even matter what you're saying? At this point, what does it matter, right? And this rally had 100,000 people. Wait. No one counted. There was no official count. But there's a station with news in its name. And if you have news in your name, you can't really lie about that, right? Your credibility.
The other thing is that there were, 100,000 people at this rally on Saturday, not just from New Jersey, but also Pennsylvania, which is a swing state. How about that? And one of them.
How about that? And if you don't want to believe blonde bimbo number 8 or whatever they call him on Fox, I don't even know if they bother giving him names anymore, do they? If you don't want to take her word for it, luckily Roger Stone snapped this picture. And really, the only thing wrong with this picture, the only thing I can see is that it's from a Rod Stewart concert in Brazil in 1994. But besides that, pretty impressive, right? Oh no! No actual footage of people leaving in droves. Where's the Rod Stewart? Look, he's still talking.
This is where generations of New Jersey patriots helped build
Bye.
this country into the single greatest nation.
100,000 people. Amazing.
But now, we are a nation in decline.
I mean, even fans stayed during Fat Elvis out of respect. But I guess dipping after the Hannibal Lecter shout out, the convicted sex offender, still registered today. I guess after those highlights, there's really nothing else to see. Unless you want to hear about shower pressure, so bye. All right, let's get back to what the title of this episode says. Polls, right? So yes, the polls have been wrong since 2016. In 2016, they had Trump not winning. He ended up winning. And then since then, Democrats have overperformed over every poll we've seen. And many of the issues that people have that they cite in these polls, like inflation, it's just easier to blame it on Biden, right? Things cost more. Must be the president's fault. They won't look at the record profits that every company has made since 2020. No, that's not important. That takes too much time. They won't look that the Democrats and Biden tried to pass a law to stop them from gouging you under the guise of inflation. That takes too many steps. And that's what this episode is about, right? This poll, I just hope it's not a reflection of the propaganda actually sinking in. Women know the stakes, and a majority of the women in my life knew the stakes before their rights were ripped away from them. And the ones dumb enough to vote for Trump, well, they know now. Andrew Breitbart had a quote about this. Here, Andrew Breitbart, if you don't know who he is, he was also a huge fan of protesters.
Behave yourself!
There he is.
Behave yourself! Behave yourself! Behave yourself!
A fan of free speech, just like Trump. But Behave yourself. Andrew Breitbart, who, so I don't get sued or I don't get thrown off Twitter again. I don't think I get thrown off Twitter again, right? But back in the day, I got suspended for like 2 weeks for suggesting, which was totally wrong by me, that this guy regularly used cocaine and had a massive heart attack due to that, due to being severely overweight and doing tons of cocaine. That definitely never happened. But before Andrew died of not doing massive amounts of cocaine, he had a quote that's kind of become gospel in this new era republicanism. I think it's Ben Shapiro's mantra. And that is that politics is downstream from culture. And it's reflected in, even if it's clumsy, the Trump sneakers, bringing Lawrence Taylor, registered sex offender up on stage, to even Ben Shapiro's Ladybugs ripoff movie. I forgot what it's called. Remember Ladybugs with Rodney Dangerfield? That was a much better movie. I think Shapiro's is actually called Lady Ballers, so he didn't try too hard to separate himself from the obvious ripoff. But what Republicans are doing with these sensational claims, more people than Taylor Swift at my rallies, Trump shoes, all this stuff, it's an attempt to make a synthetic culture. And anecdotally from me, I fear, because I'm starting to see it now, it's starting to penetrate my libtard bubble, as it is. I'm starting to see that this synthetic culture, this propaganda, is starting to work. And it's not just working on your mindless culture war zombies anymore. Bounce from one culture war to the next. It's working on people that I respect. Or I guess I should say once respected at this point. And despite Morning Joe trying to calm the neo-libs out there, trying to tuck them in and say everything's gonna be fine, I'm starting to think it's not gonna be fine. And right now's the time. 6 months out? Right now's the time when people are starting to pay attention to change up the strategy a bit. If someone from the DNC is watching this right now, call me. I have plenty of ideas for you. I can help you out. How about that? If you like content like this, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm usually here on Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays, sometimes Sundays, but always on Newsday Tuesday. So hit that up button, hit that like button, get us in the right algorithm. Thank you to all the members. You help support this channel. You help me keep doing this. Thank you to the comments, the people that give me super comments. Yeah, that's it. I think that's all I got for today. Rant over. The Chud Report.
Thank you very much.